What happens when America's most controversial radio host comes face to face with one of the most polarizing royals of our time? You won't believe what unfolds when Prince Harry steps into Howard Stern's studio, thinking he can control the narrative like every other carefully orchestrated interview. But this isn't Oprah's couch, and Howard Stern doesn't play by royal rules. Before we dive into this explosive story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Because what happened live on air last night is nothing short of unforgettable. Tension crackled the moment Prince Harry entered the Sirius XM studios. Word backstage was that he'd requested certain topics remain off limits, a move that immediately set Howard's teeth on edge. Anyone familiar with Stern knows he doesn't tolerate celebrities trying to dictate the terms. Harry arrived, flanked by his usual entourage, each one armed with clipboards and carefully measured expressions, like soldiers marching into enemy territory. Howard started the interview in his trademark casual, deceptively relaxed way, leaning back with a smirk that has won him millions of fans and just as many enemies over decades. "So, Harry," Howard began, voice edged with that familiar New York bite, "you're here promoting your new Netflix documentary, but don't you think the American public is getting a little tired of the whole poor me, born into unimaginable wealth and privilege routine?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Harry's media-trained smile flickered just for a fraction of a second before he recovered. But Howard noticed. He always notices. "Well, Howard," Harry replied, his British accent thickening under pressure, "there's a difference between sharing one's authentic experience and complaining. Mental health is universal. It affects everyone, regardless of circumstance." Mental health, right? Howard nodded, but his tone was already edging into dangerous territory. His longtime listeners knew the warning signs. But let's be real. Harry, you've made millions talking about how tough your life was. A Netflix deal worth, what, $100 million? A best-selling book? Podcasts? Interviews? Documentaries? At what point does sharing your truth become a business model? The studio fell uncomfortably silent. Harry's handlers exchanged anxious glances, weighing intervention. But Harry, whether out of pride or principle, chose to engage. "That's quite a cynical way of looking at it, Howard. When someone shares their story of trauma and healing, it can help others facing similar struggles." "Trauma," Howard repeated, savoring the word. "You know what trauma is, Harry? Trauma is growing up in the South Bronx with a crackhead mother and no father. Trauma is working 3 jobs to keep a roof over your family's head. Trauma is not having your chef make the wrong breakfast at your private estate." The atmosphere shifted palpably. Robin Quivers, Howard's longtime producer, let out a barely audible, "Oh boy," sensing what was coming next. Harry's jaw tightened. His carefully constructed media persona began to crack. "That's incredibly dismissive." Harry shot back, voice rising slightly. "Just because someone has financial security doesn't mean they don't experience real psychological trauma. The death of my mother, the relentless media harassment, the institutional racism my wife endured." "Oh, here we go with the racism card," Howard interrupted, sarcasm dripping from every word. He leaned in, eyes locked on Harry with predatory intensity. "Every time you or Meghan face criticism, it's automatically racism. Bad press. Racism. People questioning your actions. Racism. Maybe some folks just think you two are entitled brats biting the hand that fed you, but nope, racism." "Got it." The color drained from Harry's face, but Howard wasn't done. He was in full predator mode, circling his prey verbally. "And another thing," Howard continued, gaining momentum, "this whole narrative about protecting your family's privacy, while simultaneously putting your life on Netflix, writing tell-all books, doing interviews with anyone willing to pay. Don't you see the hypocrisy?" Harry's media training struggled under the pressure. He tried to craft a response that would defend his choices without escalating the confrontation, but Howard had him cornered. "We share our story on our terms," Harry managed to say, finally, "to combat the lies and misinformation that have been spread about us for years." "Your terms?" Howard laughed, the sound sharp and unkind. "Because God forbid anyone have an opinion about the guy who turned his back on his family, moved to California, and now makes a living trashing the institution that gave him his title and relevance. Tell me, Harry, if you hate being a royal so much, why not give up the title? Why still call yourself the Duke of Sussex if you want nothing to do with the monarchy?" The question landed like a punch. Harry's composure began to crumble, flashes of anger and frustration dancing across his features. His handlers frantically signaled for him to regain control or end the interview altogether. But Harry, fueled by years of frustration from polite, soft-focus interviews, finally snapped. His voice hardened, sharp and cutting. "You know what, Howard," he said, each word deliberate, measured, but brimming with controlled anger. "I came here expecting an intelligent conversation about real issues, not this." Howard's eyebrows shot up, a dangerous smirk spreading across his face. The unspoken rule of Stern's studio was clear. Nobody challenges him. And now, for the first time in decades, someone was openly trying. "Oh, I see," Howard said, deceptively calm, his tone laced with mockery. I'm the bad guy for asking real questions instead of fawning over you like Oprah and all the other sick. Here's a thought: maybe if you can't handle being challenged, you shouldn't do interviews at all. But what Howard said next would push Harry past the breaking point. Leaning back in his chair with the confidence of a man who had spent decades mastering psychological warfare, Howard delivered the line with precision. You know what this is really about, Harry? Jealousy. Jealous that your brother gets to be king while you're stuck making Netflix documentaries, chasing relevance in Hollywood. All this mental health and privacy talk. It's a cover. You're the spare who couldn't handle being second fiddle. The words landed like a blow to Harry's chest. His face flushed crimson. The carefully cultivated calm of a royal facade evaporated. Robin Quivers let out a soft, audible gasp. Howard had crossed a line few dare to approach. How dare you? Harry whispered, voice trembling with barely contained rage. Then louder, firmer, how dare you reduce everything I've been through to jealousy? You have no idea what it's like to lose a parent, to have that grief exploited by the press for decades, to watch your wife systematically targeted by the same machine that destroyed my mother. Howard leaned forward, eyes sharp and predatory. Oh, spare me the melodrama. Your mother died in a car accident 26 years ago. At some point, don't you think it's time to stop using that as an excuse for every bad decision? And as for Meghan being destroyed, she's a millionaire living in a Monaco mansion. If that's destruction, sign me up. Harry's hands shook visibly, his composure gone. She was suicidal. Howard, my wife was driven to the brink by the constant media harassment. And you sit there, joking about it like it's a game. Howard's tone shifted, even colder. If Meghan was really that bad off, why not leave quietly? Why turn it into a spectacle? The Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the book deals. If someone I loved was in danger, I'd get them out of it and not turn their pain into a media empire. The accusation hung in the air like toxic gas. Harry's breathing grew heavier, ragged. His handlers frantically signaled, urging him to end the interview. But Harry was beyond rational thought. Rage, years in the making, consumed him. You're sick, he said, voice low, venomous. Sick. Do you get off on this? Tearing people down for entertainment, mocking mental health struggles. No wonder your relationships are disasters. Who could love someone so cruel? Howard's expression shifted, his predatory smirk vanishing, replaced by a colder, more dangerous calculation. The tension in the studio crackled like electricity. Everyone knew they were witnessing something that would have lasting consequences. Now, we're getting personal, Howard whispered, voice dripping menace. Your Royal Highness, let's talk about how you abandoned your family. Your grandfather was dying. Where were you? Making deals in Hollywood. Your grandmother, who gave you everything. You couldn't even be there for her final years because you were too busy playing victim in California. Harry shot upright, chair scraping against the floor. Don't you dare talk about my grandmother. Don't you dare bring her into this sick game. Sit down, Howard commanded, firm but unshaken. We're not done. You came on my show, you play by my rules. And my rules say, we don't stop until we get the truth. The truth? Harry laughed bitterly, remaining on his feet, eyes blazing. You wouldn't recognize the truth if it hit you. Harry spat, voice sharp enough to slice through the studio air. The truth is, you're a bitter, empty man who makes a living destroying others because your own life is pathetic. The only way you feel powerful is by tearing people down. Howard rose, mirroring Harry's aggression. Despite his age, his presence dominated the room, a reminder of why he'd ruled radio for decades. The truth is, Howard fired back, you're a spoiled brat who's never worked a day in your life. You threw away everything you were given because you couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Turned your family's private pain into public spectacle because you're too weak and selfish to deal with it like a man. Weak? Harry's voice cracked with anger. I served in Afghanistan while you sat in a studio making prank calls. I've dedicated my life to veterans, to mental health, to real-world impact. What have you done except mock pain for ratings? I've entertained millions for 40 years, Howard shot back. I built an empire by being honest about who I am. I don't hide behind charity work or victim narratives to dodge responsibility, and I sure as hell don't bite the hand that fed me and then cry when people call me out. The studio felt like a ring. Harry and Howard faced each other like fighters, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Security shifted uneasily, ready to step in, while the production team watched, wide-eyed. You want to know what I think? Howard continued, voice rising. You're exactly like your father, weak, entitled, completely out of touch. At least Charles suffered in silence. You turn your life into a media circus. The mention of his father, snapped Harry, his face twisted with rage. He looked ready to strike. Security tensed, hearts pounding, the studio holding its breath. Don't you ever compare me to him, Harry hissed, voice raw. You don't know what you're talking about, none. Howard's tone dripped venom. You sit in your bubble judging lives like you're some authority on human nature. You're nothing, less than nothing, I'm nothing. Harry's fists clenched at his sides, trembling with fury. I served my country. I've worked to make a difference. I own my life. You mock everyone for entertainment. Howard's eyes cold, voice sharp. You're a coward. You couldn't handle being royal, so you ran to America and convinced yourself it was about principles. But we both know the truth. Harry, you left because being a working royal was hard. You've never done anything hard in your life. The words landed like a punch. Harry's face drained of color, his jaw tight. You don't know what you're talking about. He ground out, teeth clenched. Oh, but I do. Howard pressed. I know exactly what I'm talking about. 40 years of reading people, understanding them. You got everything handed to you and still failed. When things got tough, when your wife faced the same scrutiny every royal does, you ran. Harry's breath came fast, shallow. Stop, he whispered. Howard wasn't done. You want to talk about your mother? His voice went mocking. Diana would be ashamed. She faced the same media, the same pressures, and she stayed. She didn't abandon her duties and flee to California to make Netflix documentaries about how hard her life was. That was it. Harry erupted. How dare you? His voice cracked, raw emotion spilling through. How dare you use my mother's name? You didn't know her. You have no right. I have every right, Howard shot back, matching his volume. This is my show. I'll say what I want. Your mother died fighting for causes she believed in, while you live in a mansion complaining about how hard your life is. Harry took a step toward Howard's desk. Instantly, his security moved to intercept him. You're disgusting, Harry snarled. A disgusting human being who profits off other people's pain. No wonder your audience is full of losers who have nothing better to do than watch you tear people down. Howard laughed, a harsh, ugly sound that echoed across the studio. My audience. At least they don't pretend to care about me while exploiting their family's private moments for cash. At least they're honest about what they want, and like you, pretending this interview is beneath you while you came begging to promote your latest cash grab. I never begged. Harry spat. This was a mistake. The biggest mistake I've made since moving to America. Finally, Howard said, throwing his hands up, mock celebration in every gesture. Finally, some honesty. Yes, Harry said, voice tight. It was a mistake, but not for the reasons you think. It was a mistake because I thought we could have a civilized conversation. I thought you were a professional. Clearly, I was wrong. Professional. Howard scoffed. Kid, I've been a professional longer than you've been alive. The difference is, I'm honest. I tear people down for entertainment, and I'm damn good at it. You pretend to be a humanitarian while cashing in on your trauma. Harry's voice dropped, deadly quiet. That's it. I'm done. This interview is over. He started to remove his headphones. Oh no. Howard called after him. You don't get to storm out and play the victim. You came on my show, you answer my questions. That's how this works. Harry spun, eyes blazing, forcing everyone in the room to step back. I don't answer to you. I don't answer to anyone anymore. That's why I left a point your tiny, bitter brain can't comprehend. Howard stood, voice rising. Then why do you still use the title? Why trade on being the Duke of Sussex if you're so independent? Why not just be Harry Mountbatten Windsor, private citizen, instead of milking your royal connection for every dollar? The question hung in the air like a gauntlet. Harry opened his mouth. Then, nothing came. That's what I thought, Howard said with a satisfied smirk. You can't give it up because without that title, you're nothing. Just another celebrity with daddy issues and a podcast nobody listens to. Something inside, Harry snapped. He ripped off his headphones and hurled them across the studio, where they smashed against the wall with a resounding bang. You're sick, he screamed. Actually sick. I feel sorry for anyone who has to be around you. Feel sorry for yourself, Howard shot back. You're the one living as a disappointment to everyone who ever believed in you. Harry's chest heaved. For a long moment, it looked like he might say, more, just walk. Finally, he spoke, voice low but venomous. You know what, Howard? You win. You got what you wanted. Turn this into a circus. Go ahead, play the clips. Make money humiliating me. Congratulations. Howard leaned back, smug. Don't try to make this about me exploiting you. You came here knowing what kind of show this is. You thought you could handle it. You couldn't. That's on you, not me. Everything's on me, apparently, Harry said bitterly. My mother's death, my wife's struggles, my family, the media, according to you. It's all my fault for not just shutting up. Now you're getting it, Howard said with a cruel smile. Finally, some self-awareness. Harry stared at him, voice quiet but dripping with disgust. I pity you. I pity anyone who thinks this is success. Sitting in a studio, tearing people down, making money off cruelty. What a sad, empty life. With that, Harry turned and strode toward the studio door. Security and handlers scrambling behind him. Howard called after him one last time. Hey Harry, thanks for proving my point. Don't let the door hit you on your way back to irrelevance. Harry paused at the door, hand on the handle. For a heartbeat, it seemed he might turn back. Instead, he shook his head and walked out, leaving behind a stunned studio and the wreckage of what began as a simple promotional interview. Howard sank back into his chair, a satisfied smirk playing on his face. Well, he said into the microphone, I think that went pretty well. What do you think, Robin? Robin quivers, mostly silent until now, could only manage a week. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard announced to his listeners, Prince Harry has just left the building, and I think we all learned something today about what happens when entitled. Celebrities think they can control the conversation. Spoiler, they can't. The interview was over, but the fallout had just begun. As Harry's SUV pulled away from SiriusXM, audio of the confrontation was already being uploaded, ready to be dissected, replayed, and analyzed millions of times. Howard had achieved exactly what he wanted, a viral moment that would be talked about for years. And Harry had learned the hard way that some battles are impossible to win, especially on someone else's turf.